What if I told you Hollywood's golden age was built on secrets so dangerous they could destroy a career overnight? Behind the charming smiles, perfect romances, and flawless screen kisses were stars living lives they were never allowed to admit. Fame gave them everything, yet freedom was the one thing they couldn't have. Studios controlled their image, fake love stories were arranged, and silence became a survival tool. One rumor could mean exile, blacklisting, or total erasure from history. These are 30 Hollywood stars who were actually gay, and their hidden stories change everything you thought you knew. 30. Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster fits this title because her truth stayed carefully protected for decades, even while she ruled Hollywood as a serious, respected actress. From childhood fame to Oscar-winning performances, her image was tightly controlled, with studios and media avoiding her personal life at all costs. Behind the scenes, she maintained long-term relationships with women while keeping the focus on her work, not headlines. When she finally acknowledged her sexuality later in life, it felt calm, confident, and unapologetic. Her story shows how modern Hollywood slowly shifted from secrecy to quiet acceptance, without scandal, drama, or manufactured controversy. Before we move on, support the channel by subscribing, liking the video, and turning on notifications. More hidden Hollywood stories are coming up next. 29. Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen DeGeneres belongs on this list because her decision to live openly changed Hollywood forever. At the height of her television fame, she came out publicly, knowing it could end her career. And for a while, it did. Shows were canceled, doors closed, and silence followed. But Ellen did not step back or apologize for who she was. Years later, she returned stronger, building one of the most successful daytime shows in history. Her journey shows the cost of honesty in Hollywood and the slow reward of staying true even when the industry turns its back. 28. Lily Tomlin. Lily Tomlin's story is one of quiet strength and long-term love hidden in plain sight. While she built a legendary career in comedy and film, her personal life stayed carefully guarded for decades. She shared her life with writer Jane Wagner long before public acceptance made it safe to do so. Hollywood knew, but rarely spoke about it. Lily chose privacy over headlines, letting her talent speak louder than labels. Her life proves that some stars survived by choosing silence, stability, and loyalty, even when the world was not ready to listen. 27. John Gielgud. John Gielgud was one of the most respected actors of his time, yet his personal life remained carefully shielded. As a giant of stage and screen, he lived in an era where being openly gay could destroy everything. After a public scandal early in his career, many believed his life was over. Instead, he rebuilt his reputation. Through discipline and brilliance, Hollywood accepted his talent but avoided his truth. Gielgud's survival shows how excellence sometimes forced the industry to look the other way while still demanding silence. 26. Derek Jarman. Derek Jarman never hid who he was, and that made him both powerful and dangerous in the eyes of the industry. As a filmmaker and artist, he used his work to openly explore gay identity, love, and anger towards social hypocrisy. Hollywood never fully embraced him, but it could not ignore his impact. During the AIDS crisis, he became a visible voice when many stayed silent. Jarman's life was not about blending in, but about challenging the system head-on, using art as truth and defiance rather than protection. 25. Ian McKellen. Ian McKellen's place on this list comes from courage earned later in life. For years, he followed the unspoken rule of silence while building a respected acting career. Then, at a time when many advised caution, he came out, publicly and unapologetically. Instead of losing work, he gained a stronger voice. His openness helped shift attitudes inside the industry and beyond it. McKellen proved that honesty did not weaken his career, it strengthened it, showing a new generation that truth and success could finally exist together. 24. Quentin Crisp. Quentin Crisp never tried to hide, even when hiding was the only way to survive in old Hollywood. Long before public acceptance existed, he lived openly and unapologetically, enduring ridicule, violence, and rejection. Hollywood did not know what to do with someone so honest, so it kept him on the edges for years. Later in life, his wit, sharp observations, and fearless personality finally earned recognition. Crisp's life connects directly to this title because he represents the rare star who refused to live a lie, even when the cost was isolation and obscurity. 23. Farley Granger. Farley Granger rose to fame as a clean-cut romantic lead, especially in suspense films that made him a household name. Behind the scenes, his real life was carefully hidden, shaped by studio pressure and public expectations. He had relationships with men at a time when exposure could end everything overnight. Hollywood marketed him as a dream figure, while quietly ignoring the truth. Granger later spoke openly about his sexuality, revealing how fear and control shaped his early career. His story shows how fame often demanded silence more than honesty. 22. Dirk Bogarde. Dirk Bogarde was one of Britain's most admired actors, but his success crossed deeply into Hollywood culture. He lived in a long-term relationship with his partner while publicly presenting a carefully neutral image. Studios encouraged ambiguity because it kept his appeal intact. Bogarde chose privacy, not denial, allowing his work to take center stage, while his personal life stayed untouched by scandal. His later writings confirmed what many suspected for years. Bogarde's place here reflects how intelligence, restraint, and discretion became survival tools in an unforgiving industry. 21. Sal Mineo. Sal Mineo became famous young, earning praise for intense performances that set him apart from typical teen idols. As he matured, Hollywood grew uncomfortable with his openness and refusal to fully hide who he was. Unlike many others, Mineo did not strictly follow the rules of silence, which slowly pushed him out of major roles. His sexuality was widely known within the industry, even if never openly discussed in the press. Mineo's career shows how being different, talented, and honest could quietly end opportunities long before public support existed. 20. Paul Lynde. Paul Lynde was known for his sharp humor and unforgettable television presence, yet his real life remained carefully guarded. His sexuality was an open secret within Hollywood, but never publicly acknowledged during his peak years. Studios and networks allowed his exaggerated persona while avoiding any direct discussion of who he truly was. This contradiction created both fame and isolation. Lynde's life reflects how comedy became a shield, letting audiences laugh while the industry looked away. His story fits this title because his truth was visible, yet never officially spoken. 19. Tab Hunter. Tab Hunter was sold to audiences as the perfect all-American heartthrob, complete with romance rumors carefully planted by studios. Behind that polished image, he lived a very different truth. Hunter had relationships with men while publicly dating actresses to protect his career. The fear of exposure shaped every move he made in Hollywood. Years later, he finally spoke openly about his life, revealing how exhausting the double existence had been. His story shows how the industry manufactured fantasies while quietly erasing the real people behind them. 18. Anthony Perkins. Anthony Perkins became world famous for his unforgettable role in a psychological thriller that changed cinema forever. Off-screen, his personal life was far more complicated than his public image suggested. Perkins had relationships with men, including other actors, at a time when discovery meant professional ruin. Later in life, he entered a heterosexual marriage under intense pressure to appear acceptable. His story reflects the fear-driven choices many stars made to survive. Perkins' place here highlights how talent did not protect actors from Hollywood's strict moral expectations. 17. Beulah Bondi. Beulah Bondi was often cast as warm, loving, maternal figures, becoming one of Hollywood's most familiar faces. Her personal life, however, stayed almost completely private. Historians and biographers have long noted her close relationships with women and her deliberate avoidance of public romance. In an era obsessed with image, Bondi chose solitude and discretion over public scrutiny. Hollywood allowed her career to flourish as long as questions were never asked. Her inclusion here reflects how even supporting stars lived under the same silent rules as leading icons. 16. Charles Laughton. Charles Laughton was celebrated for his powerful presence and dramatic range, earning respect across stage and screen. Privately, he was gay, though publicly married to protect both his career and his standing in society. His marriage functioned more as a shield than a reflection of his true self. Hollywood valued his talent, but demanded conformity. Laughton's life shows how even the most acclaimed actors were forced into carefully constructed lives. His story fits this title because brilliance alone was never enough to guarantee personal freedom. 15. Mercedes de Acosta. Mercedes de Acosta lived on the edges of Hollywood power, influencing some of its biggest stars while remaining mostly unseen by the public. She was openly lesbian in private circles and formed intense relationships with famous actresses. Unlike many, she refused to fully hide who she was, even when it cost her work and respect. Studios avoided her, and friends distanced themselves under pressure. Her life connects strongly to this title because she represented a truth Hollywood feared, a woman who would not trade honesty for comfort or approval. 14. Ramon Novarro. Ramon Novarro was one of the silent era's most glamorous leading men, adored for his charm and elegance. Behind that image, he lived in constant fear of exposure. As a gay man during Hollywood's strict moral control, he carefully guarded his private life. Studios protected his image while forcing silence. His tragic later years reflected the emotional cost of hiding for too long. Novarro's story fits this list because his fame depended on denying his true self in an industry that punished honesty without mercy. 13. Barbara Stanwyck. Barbara Stanwyck built a tough, independent screen persona that set her apart from her peers. Off-screen, her personal life raised quiet questions, especially her close relationships with women and her disinterest in traditional romance. While never publicly labeled, historians have long viewed her life through a different lens. Hollywood avoided direct discussion, allowing her career to thrive as long as ambiguity remained. Stanwyck's inclusion reflects how powerful women often survived by refusing explanations while living outside expected norms. 12. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford crafted a fearless public image, but her private life was far more complex. Alongside her high-profile marriages, she maintained intense emotional relationships with women that were rarely acknowledged. Hollywood preferred to promote her as a dramatic romantic figure, ignoring anything that disrupted the narrative. Crawford understood the rules and played them well. Her place on this list shows how stars learn to balance truth and performance, keeping certain parts of themselves carefully hidden behind fame and control. 11. Katharine Hepburn. Katharine Hepburn lived life on her own terms, both on screen and off. Known for rejecting traditional femininity, she also avoided public discussion of her private relationships. Many biographers point to long-standing romantic bonds with women that were quietly accepted within elite circles. Studios protected her unconventional image while steering clear of personal truths. Hepburn's story fits this title because she thrived by refusing labels, allowing mystery and independence to shield her from scrutiny in a tightly controlled industry. 10. Tallulah Bankhead. Tallulah Bankhead was loud, fearless, and impossible to control, which made her both famous and dangerous in old Hollywood. Unlike many stars, she did not hide her attraction to women, even if the studios pretended not to hear her. Her lifestyle shocked executives, yet her talent kept her working. Hollywood tolerated her honesty because silencing her was impossible. Bankhead's life fits this title perfectly, showing how raw charisma sometimes overpowered the rules, allowing truth to exist in plain sight without official acknowledgement. 9. Marlene Dietrich. Marlene Dietrich crafted an image built on mystery, elegance, and defiance. She openly challenged gender norms and maintained relationships with both men and women throughout her life. Hollywood turned her sexuality into intrigue rather than scandal, using ambiguity as part of her appeal. While studios avoided direct acknowledgement, those close to her knew the truth. Dietrich's place on this list reflects how carefully controlled mystery allowed some stars to live more freely than others, as long as the illusion remained profitable. 8. Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo lived wrapped in silence, mystery, and deliberate distance from the public. Her intense relationships with women, including long-term emotional bonds, have been documented through letters and biographies. Hollywood protected her image by encouraging secrecy and isolation. Garbo refused interviews, avoided public appearances, and gave nothing away. Her story aligns with this title because she mastered disappearance. As a survival tactic, choosing privacy over explanation in an industry that demanded access to every detail. 7. George Cukor. George Cukor was one of Hollywood's most powerful directors, shaping the careers of many legendary stars while staying almost invisible himself. Known as a master of elegance and performance, he worked during a time when being openly gay could end a career instantly. Cukor never publicly discussed his personal life, yet within Hollywood circles, his sexuality was widely known. Studios valued his talent too much to lose him, so silence became the agreement. His story fits this title because even behind the camera, the truth had to stay hidden for success to survive. 6. Randolph Scott. Randolph Scott was the embodiment of the rugged American hero, especially in Western films. For years, he shared his life with another actor in a long-term, quietly acknowledged relationship. Hollywood ignored the arrangement, focusing instead on his masculine screen image. Studios protected his reputation by maintaining silence. Scott's story belongs here because it shows how certain truths were quietly tolerated as long as they never reached the public spotlight. 5. Cary Grant. Cary Grant perfected the image of the charming, confident leading man, becoming one of Hollywood's most admired stars. Behind that smooth exterior, his private life was far more complex. During his early years, he lived with another actor in a close, long-term relationship that drew quiet attention within Hollywood circles. Studios carefully shaped his public romances to protect his appeal. Grant never spoke openly about his sexuality, choosing ambiguity as a shield. His place on this list reflects how image control allowed certain truths to exist quietly, as long as they never challenged the fantasy sold to audiences. 4. James Dean. James Dean's life burned fast and intensely, both on screen and off. While he became a symbol of rebellion and masculinity, those close to him described a far more fluid personal life. Dean formed deep emotional and romantic connections with both men and women, never fitting neatly into Hollywood's expectations. The industry avoided defining him, especially after his sudden death froze his image in time. His story fits this title because the truth of who he was became part of the mystery Hollywood never tried to solve. 3. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift was one of the most gifted actors of his generation, known for emotional depth and vulnerability. Privately, he was gay and struggled deeply with the need to hide it. Studio pressure, personal trauma, and fear of exposure took a heavy toll on his mental health. Unlike others, Clift could not fully separate his real self from his work. His career slowly suffered as the weight became unbearable. Clift's story belongs here because it reveals the emotional cost of silence in an industry that offered fame but demanded self-denial. 2. Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson represented everything Hollywood wanted in a leading man. Tall, handsome, and romantic. Privately, he lived a completely hidden life, carefully managed by studios through fake relationships and strict control. For decades, the truth stayed buried while he became one of the biggest stars in the world. Only later did the public learn who he truly was. His story stands at the center of this title because it exposed how deeply Hollywood lied, not just to audiences, but to the stars themselves. 1. William Haynes. William Haynes earns the top spot because he made a choice no one else dared to make. At the height of his fame, Hollywood demanded he abandon the man he loved to protect his career. Haynes refused. He walked away from stardom rather than live a lie. The studios erased him, but he rebuilt his life on his own terms and found success outside acting. His story defines this list because it proves that honesty existed, even when Hollywood punished it completely. Hollywood didn't just sell dreams, it buried truths. Behind the fame, applause, and flashing cameras were lives shaped by fear, silence, and sacrifice. Some of these stars never got the chance to live openly, while others had their stories rewritten or erased. Knowing what you know now, can you still look at classic Hollywood the same way? If these hidden stories shocked you, don't stop here. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the secrets history tried to hide. Which story stayed with you the most?